So tell us about the golf course. What do we need to know?
I mean,
Let's
so you talk about the condition. I mean, Olympia Fields is a major championship style golf course. So you can only expect that the conditions are going to be good. We are just outside of Chicago in the suburbs this week here at Olympia Fields. This is the North Course. So if you're searching, there's several courses here, and that's the one you're going to want to look at. It is a par 70 playing just over 7,300 yards, actually almost 7,350, and that's a beefy course for a par 70. So, I mean, that's long. We got 70 players this week, no cut. So that's important. We're going to kind of, if you're looking at strategy, we talk about this all the time. This is really just like a WGC type week because there's no cut. So in the GPPs, you're really going to have to differentiate yourself to have a good lineup that's going to win all the money. But this is just another, as we've really seen since the restart, just another old classical tree-lined golf course. The fairways out here are bent with POA mixed in. You've got Kentucky bluegrass rough. As we just mentioned, it's looking like the second cut is definitely pretty gnarly. The greens are bent. They say you'll see bent with POA a lot this week. We have actually already got some knowledge from a caddy that they say they definitely look bent to them.
He walked the course tonight.
Yeah. So that was just tonight. So not necessarily saying that they're putting like bent, but they look like bent. So
they probably are.
Yeah. So they probably are. And they're going to run really quick. I mean, if you looked at the media guide this week, they're going to run it around 12.5 on the stimp meter. That is pretty quick by tour standards. And there's a lot of undulation on these greens. So it's going to be interesting to see what these guys do. I think that approach is definitely an important thing this week. You got to keep it below the hole. You're not going to want to be above the hole with some, crazy undulating downhill putt. I think that's important for these guys. You've got 7 par 4s that all measure above 450 yards. That's definitely the meat of this golf course. And both par 5s are pretty long as well. One's playing 626, and that's actually, I think, the first hole. And then 606 is the second par 5. So that's long, both of them. They're not necessarily reachable for a lot of these guys. So that's important to look at. I think the scoring really is going to come from like holes 11 through 13 that they're a little bit shorter par 4s right there with an easy par 3 in there. I think that might be a little stretch where you see some scoring. Looking at some quotes this week, though, I mean, this is not necessarily, the players, when they talk about it, they don't think you can just bomb it around this course. You really got to be pretty precise off the tee. Now, we haven't really seen the tour guys play here since, the 2003 U.S. Open. So a lot's changed since then. There's a lot of guys hitting it a lot further. But I still think with the tight tree lines and what their sight lines are going to be, that you can't just, bomb it your way around here. You're going to have to be pretty strategic off the tee, put yourself in a good spot in the fairway to give yourself a good angle into the greens. So I think it's a ball striker's course. What else? I mentioned approach as a stat I'm looking at, definitely looking at form. You always see the guys in these FedEx Cup playoffs that are hot going into them. They play well in that first event, tend to kind of keep that streak going. So I like form a lot this week. I mentioned ball striking. I'm looking at par 4 scoring as I always do on par 70s, especially from that 450 to 500 yard range. And then, long-term stats from bent grass. I think that's something that's important to look at as well. I can give you past champions, but it doesn't really matter because we haven't been on this course. So whatever. I mean, if you want to look at, one kind of, recent event that some of these guys have played this course on was a 2015 U.S. Amateur, which DB's boy, Bryson DeChambeau, won back in 2015. So there you go. That is the course breakdown. DB, what did I miss? What do you want to add? What do you got? Has any caddy texted you or Instagrammed you in the middle of what I've just been talking about?
No. Another recent event is the NCAA has a tournament here most years, if not every year. Matt Wolff, Cameron Champ have won that in the last few years. And then Morikawa, Victor Hovland, John Rahm, and Scotty Scheffler have also played in that event over the last few years and done pretty well. To me, I still think, though, we're going to see good scores here. I don't think this is, it feels like a U.S. Open course. It's hosted a U.S. Open. I don't think it's quite set up for a U.S. Open right now where like a 10 under is going to win. I think it's going to be like a 16, 17, 18 under that's going to win this golf tournament.
Yeah, I agree. There's still going to be some scoring.
Yeah, to me, it feels a little like the PGA Championship. It feels a little bit like Harding Park to me. It's long. You got to be in the fairway, so long and accurate, which is obviously a deadly combination. But there are some courses on the PGA Tour where you can just be long and not accurate and get away with it. Here, it looks as though the rough will be penal enough that you're going to want to be in the fairway, and you want to be able to control your spin into these smaller greens, which you mentioned, that have a ton of undulation, and you want to make sure you're on the right level, you're on the right tier, you're below the hole, whatever that may be. So for that reason, you want to be in the fairway to have control of that spin. So, but it's freaking long. Like we've said that, like it's 7,300 yard par 70. So if you can be accurate in the fairway and long, then that's what I'm looking for. So similar to like a Morikawa kind of profile. Like Morikawa is not a short hitter. He's not a Brian Harmon. He's not a Zach Johnson off the tee. He's a little longer than that, but he's not, he's definitely not like a Finau or a DJ or a Brooks, but he's probably not even close to maybe I don't know. I think Hovland's longer than him, right? And Hovland's not a super bomber, but you need some length and you need to hit the fairways. And even some quotes from years past from these players talk about even being on the proper side of the fairway to have the right angle, that even if you're not on the proper side of the fairway, it's still tough to attack these pin locations. So it is all about positioning yourself on this course and then being able to navigate what we're seeing reported as rolling like bent grass greens for sure. So I'm kind of looking at strokes gained off the tee. I'm looking at strokes gained approach, as you mentioned. Definitely agree. Recent form being a big deal. And we see that every year in the FedEx Cup playoffs where you have, you need players who are riding it hot. Guys who just barely crept in here and they, maybe they earned all their FedEx Cup points earlier in the year, but lately they've sucked, but they earned enough earlier in the year that they're still in the top 70, but their form sucks right now, are probably, not going to be great guys to look at in a strong field. Where the course is gonna have some challenges to it. But then again, it's a no-cut event. So if you're playing DFS, you can play just about anybody. You can gain an edge a lot of different ways in terms of ownership. You're going to need to have the winner on your lineup, and you're going to need to have guys that are scoring, right? So it's not going to just be enough to have 6 guys that finish okay. One reason why I like to scale back, we talk about this all the time in terms of DFS. I'm not really playing my normal exposure this week in terms of DFS. I am going to go a little heavier on the betting side, which we're going to talk a little more. And especially sites like Draftkings have more on offer this week than they have normal weeks this early. So they're putting out more head-to-head matchups. We can talk through some of that tonight as well. One last thing I did want to mention, Pat. I want to ask you your opinion on this. So we talk about the Bubble Boys, right? And we've talked about it for the last couple of weeks in terms of FedEx Cup Bubble Boys, how motivated are they? But let me pose this scenario to you. Let's say you are a Bubba Watson, who I think sits somewhere in the 60s right now. I don't have it in front of me. I think he's somewhere in the 50s or 60s. And let's say you cut your Bubba and you get off to somewhat of a sluggish start. Basically, your chances of finishing top 5 and earning a significant amount of FedEx Cup points required to get you into the top 30 are looking slim come Friday night, Saturday. Do you kind of think that there's a chance these guys somewhat mail it in or just get through it? And I say that because I looked at something this past week. The guy that moved up the most that made the biggest leap in the FedEx Cup standings this week was Kisner. He moved up 17 spots. He went from, let's see, where'd he come from? Where is he? I don't know where he is now, but he was outside. So he moved up 17 spots.
He's like 20 something.
Right, he finished like runner up, didn't he? Didn't he finish runner up or third?
No, he got bumped out of third because Inglis was second, and then Berger made that birdie putt on 18, so it bumped Kiz to fourth. So. Okay, so even finishing fourth, he moved a maximum of 17 spots. Okay, so you got to be in the top 30 next week.
let's just say theoretically, and this is not an exact science here, and I'm sure Ben would love to like tell me how dumb this whole thing
he
is.
Would, yeah.
But that puts anyone outside the 47 range or even 50 range. Like, you got to have a really good week. If you're in the 50 range, you have to have a damn good week. Not only do you have to play well, but if you don't win, you have to finish probably top 5, and other people in front of you also have to suck. A lot of things have to fall in place. So all I'm saying is, are there certain players who, if they're outside that range and they just don't get off to the hot start that they want come Saturday morning, do you think they mail it in? No cut event, you get a paycheck regardless.
Depends. I think it depends.
There's not much of an off season coming into this. I mean, they're turning right back around the next week and starting with the Safeway, but then even the bigger names are going to be playing more because you got the U.S. Open, then the Masters. So I just wonder about that.
Here's why I say it depends. And we're obviously in the political season too. So, that sounds like kind of a wishy-washy type answer. But, I mean, you got guys like that are in this, like, let's just, go in like to like Bubba you mentioned. He's 58th. So Bubba could be a guy who's been on tour a long time, whatever else, has all the wins that, whatever, major championships. I could see he being like just kind of, I wouldn't say he would withdraw, but just kind of going, cowboying up over the weekend, not really caring and just trying to whatever, get home as quick as he can to his family. That's the kind of, like, Bubba is like a bad example to me for that, because he's a family man type guy. Like, you can see he's he can be so just out there on the golf course.
Yeah,
but don't know what.
That's why I chose him, because he's on that line. He's a good player. He putts well on bent, and he's actually rounding into a little bit of form here lately. Like, he's long. So it's just one of those things that you kind of stop and think about. Like, so for me, it's like, well, do I look at a player that far out and think, dang, like, if they don't really come out swinging, it's going to be tough. Maybe something to just think about for Showdown, if you play Showdown and you want to think about that.
Yeah. I think most of these guys, though, are going to be trying their best to try to go low. You think of a guy like JT Poston or somebody like that. They can just, if they happen to have a good week, can get into that top 30. I mean, all these guys want to be in that top 30 regardless. Joel Damon, the guys on the, who's, Damon's in 41st. I mean, he's got a good shot if he has a good week to make it into that top 30.
See, he's close enough to me, though, that I don't think my logic applies there. I'm talking about the guys in the 50s and beyond. You have got to finish top 5. If you are 50 and beyond.
Kuchar is a guy that I might not want to be on just because he's 55th. He hadn't really been playing all that great. And just, I don't know, maybe he doesn't care, right now, and he just wants to get home to the family or whatever. Kuchar kind of is blah to me. I don't really, but some of these other guys, though, I mean, I don't know. It's a tough question, but
I'm not saying I really fall on one side of it or the other, but it was something that I just started thinking through, like, is that a possibility? Is that something that certain players, especially veteran players like the ones we just mentioned, Bubba and Kuchar, who don't really, the difference in the money for this event, being if they finish T48th versus T68th, that doesn't really matter to them. If they come out Friday and they're not even sniffing the top 5. You know what I mean? Like, I could see them just going,
I mean,
whatever.
They're still all competitive as hell. And I mean, look at Louis Oosthuizen. I mean, he was on the outside looking in. He had to make birdie on his 18th hole. He was in the second or third to last group. I guess he was second because DJ and them were waiting on him. And he's just looking at his yardage book. And he put his heart and soul into trying to just two-putt, because he had an eagle putt on 18 because he knew if he made it, somebody must have told him that if he made it, he was going to be 70th and he was going to make it into the next event. I mean, he grinded like crazy just for that. And he's a veteran on tour. So, I mean, I don't know. All these guys are pretty daggum competitive. So they, we'll see. But
okay,
it's an interesting theory.
Just something I wanted to pontificate about, as we will have a more relaxed version of pontification with Pat at the end of tonight's show, which I'm very excited about. Pat, before we get on to the picks, we'd like to thank our friends at Chill Boys. We've been talking about them. It's our new undies that we like. In fact, I just bought my nasty teenager who's freaking 16 and he's disgusting and he doesn't take proper care of himself. And we look, we're folding laundry and we see holes all in his drawers and he doesn't tell anybody anything. Like, we're like, hey man, you could have said, hey, my underwear look like freaking Swiss cheese. And we could have said, oh, okay, we'll buy you some new ones because that's disgusting. But no, that he's a 16-year-old boy. He doesn't care. So I've just ordered him some Chill Boys. And I said, you know what? You thank Dad later. Thank Dad later and be thankful that Dad is a huge mega podcast star and I can get these Chill Boys for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can understand what it's like at a young age because, in my day, Pat, and I know in your day, we didn't have an anti-chafing zone.
No.
You just fucking dealt with it. You sacked up, no pun intended, and you just dealt with that stuff, And now I'm about to have my 16-year-old getting his anti-chafing on and his everything just caressed and held like a silk straight jacket around his package from the Chill Boys.
Spoiled 16-year-old, just so spoiled to get the anti-chafing zone. I mean, we walked miles and miles to school with no anti-chafing zone.
Yeah. Dude, do you remember? Yeah, no, I'm not gonna get into that. But yeah, we did not have that. But I'm just saying, if you need some fresh new undies, or somebody that needs some fresh new undies, not in a weird way, but you just know for whatever reason, then you should consider going to our friends at Chill Boys, chillboys.com to check out their line of cool soft boxers and boxer briefs. You can use promo code Tour Junkies and save 15% off your first order. Everything in your order, 15% off. Again, head over to chillboys.com. Use promo code Tour Junkies. Save that 15% off. Thank you. Thank us, and thank you for thanking us in the future for getting some Chill Boys around your Grundle area because you will not regret taking care of that. That's some business that you got to take care of. And the bamboo. The 15%. Bamboo they got, the bamboo ball wrapper that they put in that thing is just sweet. So
it's a good deal.
Thanks, Chill Boys, for hooking it up.